Coming up tonight on YCN News, a bill to abolish the death penalty in New Hampshire is gaining momentum. Vermont Congressman Peter Welch says the president needs to rein in the cyber-snooping National Security Agency. And we'll hear from Rich Stockwell, new owner of the Millstone at 74 Main. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth-Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening, and welcome to this Friday edition of YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. One of this political season's most important debates is taking front and center in Concord, New Hampshire. A bill to abolish the death penalty in the Granite State is gaining momentum, and so is the call to leave this penalty in place. Hampton Democrat State Rep. Rennie Cushing is the lead sponsor of the bill. Law enforcement and legal experts are divided on whether the death penalty should be repealed. Two former state attorney generals, Phil McLaughlin and Gregory Smith, agree with the bill proposed by Cushing. Supporters include State Senator David Pierce of Etna and State Representative Linda Tanner of Sunapee.
Well, I'm co-sponsoring a bill to repeal the death penalty in New Hampshire. The death penalty has not been used in New Hampshire since the 1930s, and at the present time there is one person on death row, the fellow in Manchester who killed the policeman, Officer Briggs. And his appeals so far, one of the reasons I oppose the death penalty is that financially it doesn't make sense. His appeals so far and what you have to go through for anyone on death row is up to about $5 million and still going. And it's in the Supreme Court, and they still have some more work to do on his appeal. If his appeal is not upheld and he actually is sentenced to execution, the state then has to prepare a site for the execution and get all the paraphernalia and the people in place for it, which will cost millions of dollars, I think, at this point. So that's one reason I oppose the death penalty. Another reason morally I oppose the death penalty, I don't think it's the state's place to take the life of a person. I think that life without parole in a prison, which only costs about $30,000 a year, certainly over the course of his lifetime will be much less than the millions of dollars we're spending here, and he will have time to think about what he has done and reflect on what he has done. I think it's a bipartisan. It's kind of like the gambling. I think there'll be crossovers on both sides. We have a strong number of people who have signed both at the Senate level and at the House level on this bill to repeal the death penalty. The House representative who's leading the fight, leading the charge, his own father was killed. So he is a person who has personal experience and can speak from a victim standpoint. So I think it's going to be an interesting discussion, interesting debate. I really have no idea, although I think now is the time, since New Hampshire hasn't had an execution in so long.
Vermont Congressman Peter Welch says the president needs to do more to rein in the cyber-snooping National Security Agency. The NSA is accused of collecting thousands of email and cell phone conversations of unsuspecting Americans. The task to protect the country's national security must be balanced with a person's right to privacy. The right to be left alone is paramount, Welch says in a press release. Welch made his remarks after a speech today by President Barack Obama about regulating the NSA's reach. Welch says Congress should pass fellow Vermont politician Senator Patrick Leahy's bill to stop this digital eavesdropping. Leahy is co-sponsoring a bill with Wisconsin Republican Senator Jim Sensenbrenner to compel the federal government to stop monitoring citizens' electronic activities. Welch is sponsoring a bill that would shine a light on taxpayer-financed budgets of America's intelligence agencies. After the break, we'll hear from Rich Stockwell, the new owner of the Millstone at 74 Main.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Now we'll hear Rich Stockwell, new owner of the Millstone at 74 Main.
Richard Stockwell at the Millstone at 74 Main.
You're making a full circle in your career, coming back to where you started, aren't you?
Yeah, I was a young pup. I bartended here, I worked in the line, I dishwashed, I ran the dining room, and I ran the Anchorage for 2 years for Tommy Mills, and we've been friends for those 30 years.
What made you want to take over the restaurant now?
Yeah, it's a good time. I mean, Tommy's getting older. I think he wants to slow down a bit. He still owns the Flying Goose Brew Pub, which is a great restaurant, and like I said, it just made sense for me, and I'm trying to complicate my life. I think he's trying to uncomplicate his.
What are some of the plans and changes you are making to the restaurant?
Well, the things that was really important to me is that I kind of linked to the history, not only of the building, but menu items and things of the past, which is why I've kind of connected the names Millstone at 74 Main. I think it pays homage to the past, and like everything has to change. It's going to evolve into something that's different while still having things that are attaching itself to the old things that they've always done here.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Rose Spillman. Now Matt McDonald will have a look at our weather for the next 5 days, and he'll take a look at some local high school sports.
Thanks, Rose. Tomorrow we're expecting 1 to 3 inches of snow with a high of 37 and lows in the 20s. Sunday we'll have highs in the 30s and a low of 16 degrees. Monday we're expecting more snow with a high of 23 degrees and lows down to 0. Tuesday, make sure to wear some layers because temperatures will drop to highs around 12 degrees and lows in the negatives. Wednesday will have a high of 10 and a low of negative 2 degrees. If you're looking for some fun this weekend, check out the robotics tournament in Thetford, Vermont this Sunday. High school and middle school teams from 4 states will compete in the Bond Gym at Thetford Academy from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And now let's look at highlights from our YCN Game of the Week. On Thursday night, the Woodstock Wasps swarmed into Springfield to take on the Cosmos. Early in the game, Springfield's Josh Rivers gets this rebound and put back for 2 of his 7 points on the night. On the other end, Woodstock's Connor Fagard puts back this rebound. The junior forward led the Wasps with 16 points. In the second half, Springfield's Tanner Alborough hits a 3-pointer to pull Springfield to within 9 points late in the game. Alborough makes it even more interesting as the senior captain quickly nails another 3-pointer. Alborough ended up with 12 of his team's 33 points, but Woodstock's point guard Dougie Avellino hits this clutch 3-pointer to stop the Springfield rally, and Woodstock goes on to win 50-33. Woodstock is now 4-4 and will face Green Mountain on Saturday. Springfield drops to 3-6 and will travel to Brattleboro on Saturday.
And thank you for joining us for this Friday edition of YCN News. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And you can watch our programs anytime online at www.ycnnow.com. Be sure to tune in on Monday at 7:30 and 10:30 to hear from the 4 District 1 candidates running for Executive Council. I'm Rose Spillman for YCN, your local view. Good night.